The House is expected to vote on the tax bill today before sending it to the Senate. Senator Susan Collins, who has expressed concerns about the bill, now says she's going to support it. For more on this, Brandon Arnold joins us now. He's the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so Collins is on board. It seems like Arizona Senator Jeff Flake is the only undecided senator right now. Listen.
Still looking at the bill, still reading the bill, still working on some other issues. Just came from a meeting on DACA, for example, so we're trying to get that moving concurrently with the bill. Obviously, it won't be voted on here now, but January is going to be busy.
All right, what do you think? Was that a maybe? Is he going to be a yes? What do you think?
Well, I think he voted for the bill the first go-around, so I think there's a good chance he'll vote for it once again. But even if he ends up voting no, they have enough votes in the Senate right now to pass the legislation. As you said, that could happen as early as tonight, possibly tomorrow morning, but I think the Senate is in very good shape right now.
So the House is expected to pass this with flying colors, you could say. The Senate it's going to be a nail-biter, but they're expected to pass it too. Is this moving a little bit too fast for you, or you're liking the pace?
No, I think the pace is appropriate right now. I think they've been talking about doing tax reform for 31 years now. They've been looking at this bill for months and months. The American public has had a good chance to look at it. I think we're continuing to dissect it, but I think we're moving at an appropriate pace that is going to eventually generate quite a big number of jobs and quite a lot of economic growth.
You know, what boggles my mind is that in the past, Democrats have come on board with tax cuts. They really have. In previous administrations going back decades. This time around, they really just don't want anything to do with it. But if you take a look, and the Tax Policy Center did, at the winners and losers here, they find that 143 million of us will see lower tax rates, 8.5 million will see higher tax rates. So
yeah, that's absolutely
isn't this
right.
good for everybody, or most people?
There's been so much misinformation about this bill, it's mind-numbing. The Tax Policy Center, which is kind of a left-leaning group, says that 80% of Americans will receive a tax cut under this bill. And if you just look at the middle income bracket, you're looking at 90% of Americans getting a tax cut. Then if you look at polling numbers, it suggests something very different. 50% of Americans currently believe they're going to see a tax increase from this legislation. That's completely wrong, and that's the product of a lot of misinformation that's floating around.
Well, the folks, or some of the folks that say that, are the ones that live in the high-tax states, including New York, New Jersey, Illinois, California. And in fact, turning to the House side of this, Representatives Dan Donovan and Peter King here in New York, they say they're going to vote no because they are concerned with SALT, the SALT deduction, state and local taxes, that's going to hit their constituents hard, but you disagree with them.
Well, I think that would fall more on high-tax states than it would on low-tax states. That's kind of how progressive taxation works. Just like higher-income folks, individuals pay more in taxes, higher-income states pay more in taxes as well. That's, again, how progressive taxation works. This bill makes the tax code slightly more progressive than it currently is. But in terms of the concerns of New York and Connecticut and some of the higher-tax states, and listen, I live in Maryland, I live in a high-tax state, the problem there is that in the state capitals, they've engaged in reckless fiscal policy for years and years, and they've shifted that burden away from their own taxpayers onto federal taxpayers, and I think that needs to come to an end to some extent.
Yeah, and we are on the cusp of historic tax reform. Brandon Arnold, so good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Federal investigators will be on the scene this morning after an Amtrak train derailed near Seattle yesterday.